Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another live episode of Unlock Your Potential. As you guys know, we have been bringing global experts from all over the world, and today we have another seasonal professional leader from Pakistan, Mr. Zafar Osmani, who's currently the CEO of Excelerate Private Limited, a very well-known seasoned business professional with a careers of vast management and leadership experience spanning over last 30 years, which comprises of being a COO or CEO of Karachi Electric Supply Company, and as well as the Senior Executive Vice President of the largest bank of Pakistan, Habib Bank Limited, as the head of HR. So we are very lucky to have Mr. Zafar Osmani, who's been my mentor and coach also in my career life. So without waiting any further time, let me go straight away and hand over to Mr. Osmani. Ji Zafar Saab, all yours. Welcome to the program, Zafar Saab, again, and we'll be just quick. And I understand that you have a very special presentation for us today. So along with Mr. Zafar Osmani also... please go.
Ali, basically, I think this is a very fascinating subject, unlocking your potential. And before making the presentation, I was asking myself several questions. You know, what does it really mean? I mean, are we just going to talk it in an abstract term, or there are things that we can be more focused about? And I have therefore prepared a small 4, 5, 6 slides, and then it will finish in 5 to 7 minutes. So basically, what I started off thinking, and my first thought was, if we are looking at this slide is not working. Yeah, sorry. Unlocking your potential, and why is it more important now? Because of the post-COVID-19 and the way forward, the amount of disruption it has brought to our lives is simply unprecedented and mind-boggling. So what we're doing is, I'm trying to think through, and then we will open the discussion and questions for participants. First thing I wanted to understand that what is a potential basically? What do we understand? What is the potential? And potential is essentially, my screen is covered. Okay, sorry. So potential is basically a possibility to do something in a bigger way. Possibility to do something. Just bear with me. This screen is giving me some problem. Just 1 second.
So you click on the screen. That's it.
No, I've got it. No issue. Okay. So basically, potential. If we ask anybody, ask them to define, you'll come up with different versions of that. But basically, it's a possibility to achieve something. And we need to understand, basically, when we're talking about achieving something, what do we mean by that? How far can one go in the area of interest in life? How far can one go? And that is something that we need to understand to unlock, because we need to first understand where we are today and what is it that we would like to go. And if I move on, there are different dimensions of potential. You know, potential is not very specific. It can be potential, leadership potential to grow. It can be executive potential. It can be potential in the field of arts. And again, there are different fields of art: music, the photography, etc., etc. And then you can see the next aspect is sports. So, you know, there are so many types of sport. And if one person has potential to become, just for an example, to become a good footballer, doesn't necessarily mean that he has the potential to also be a good cricketer or a good baseball player. So these are the things that we need to understand. When we talk of potential, it's not a very simple term. It means we need to take a look at what is it that we mean by potential. So a lot of opportunities and a lot of variations of potential are there, but we are not focused. So when we talk of potential, okay, so unlock your potential. What are we going to unlock? First, do we know what we want to know? So important thing is to understand. And the second important factor that I wanted to just bring up for discussion is elasticity of potential. So I may have a potential today, but my learning and understanding is it is not a static potential. I may have potential 10 years ago to do something, But in these 10 years, the things that I have learned, the capabilities that I have acquired may have put me on a totally different track of potential to grow. So it expands or it reduces also potential with external factors. And what are those external factors? They are disruptions. They are education. Now education validity used to be lifetime. So if you're a graduate, if you've done master's, that was a lifetime education you have taken and you can just relax. Unfortunately, now even the academic education is seen to have a life of 5 to 10 years, which basically means whatever we studied in university, spent 16, 18 years, is not really relevant to the world today. So we talk about knowledge explosion, unbelievable, everything we Google, everything for every issue it's on the fingertips. 10 years ago, people used to say there is going to be a knowledge explosion, everything will be on the fingertip. Since we had not actually experienced it, today we know that any question on earth, type on Google and you will find something on that. Unbelievable. And then, of course, the technology growth is exponential. There is an unbelievable kind of artificial intelligence and softwares coming, which has an impact, a direct impact on every individual, because the potential of the person is now defined in the new relevant paradigm. Potential 10 years ago with limited technology could have been different, and my potential to grow today with the artificial intelligence and technology will be something totally different. So that is something that is impacting. We have to understand and factor that. Then connectivity, and this is where we bring in Corona. I mean, Corona has done such a huge impact on everybody, every individual on earth. I was in the morning, there was a discussion, and somebody was very interestingly saying that, look, I hedged myself by investing in properties in different countries, thinking that, okay, sometimes some property will be right. Never ever anybody imagined that the whole world will be closed and locked down the way it is today. So property prices, investments and everything. And now because of that, the connectivity, things are now moving in a different paradigm altogether, different paradigm. So our ability to understand and our ability to learn and grow in the new dimension is going to be different. So we have to take a fresh look at our potential. Now they're talking about very briefly potential enhancement capability. So we need to understand anybody who is looking at the self potential or organization potential. What do you really want? And that is a very basic question. It's not a simple question. It's something that one should try and answer sitting in isolation, thinking 10, 15 minutes on the life. What do you want out of this life? What is the purpose? Where are we going? And then it will become clear that if I want to achieve it, does it have any relevance to my capability, my physical and mental capability? So I want to be a Formula One driver, and do I have the mental and physical capability to do that? And then the other important factor here is the desire. How strongly do we want to achieve something? Level of motivation is very important, because translation of our desire into reality will depend on how much efforts we put. One, it will depend on the potential, on the capability that we have, the inherent capability, which gives us the ability to specialize in a particular sport or in a particular game or a particular profession. And the second thing is the desire and motivation, internal desire and budding desire to go. So all these three factors contribute to potential enhancement capability. Then we move on to the next slide, which is, we talk about assessment centers and potential enhancement. Most organizations believe in that blindly, and they do the assessment center, and we build a career profile from there. Okay, so this person, I came across this word potential first time around when I was working with Exxon. And every year we used to do potential assessment of all the officers. And potential used to change from year to year. So if today I assess someone a very high potential, and maybe 2 years down the road, he may not be that high, and he may come to the middle tier. Vice versa, a middle tier or even a lower tier employee can show ability to grow and develop and do things. So this is it's not a static thing, it's a dynamic thing. And that has to be understood. So desire level of change. We have to level the physical and mental strength assessment centers. They help, but they should not define long-term career roadmaps and desired level of change, and then understanding the gap, where we are versus what we want to do. And then, of course, it follows with the strategy. So do I need some technical training? Do I need to be more proficient in data, in computers? Do I need to be more active physically? Do I need to be more relationship, etc., etc.? So those things will define my ability to move on. And then first stage towards unlocking is the self-assessment. This is very important. Second is understanding my own goals and potential. And third, of course, is work through the structured plan, which will be self-awareness and then mentor support. We used to see mentors in organizations, but they are not very structured. I think the time has come that every organization adopt an internal mentor. And of course, engagement of interaction with professional coaches. I know it makes a lot of difference. Professional coaches make a lot of difference, and they really impact the organization culture because you're normally dealing with the top level people. These are my humble submissions, and this is my contact. If anybody wants to take a screenshot, I'm on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, and this is where I get out. Okay. So Ali, all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And may I request the other distinguished panelists, Mr. Kamran Rizvi and Mr. Neville, to please also turn on your webcams. So thank you very much, Zafar Osmani Saab, for a very, very brief yet intriguing presentation. And now, folks, we are open for question and answers. So with your permission, everybody, if I start with first question, Zafar Saab, I'm particularly interested where you mentioned the mental fitness. As you know, every change or every movement that you spoke about, it all comes down to the mental block. And the mental block is directly linked to the level of your confidence and feelings, and in addition to the environmental influence. So how do you foresee, as to develop that level of confidence that yes, as you know, we've been working on, we can do it. So developing that can-do attitude.
Absolutely. Listen, Ali, I think there are two important factors one should remember. We're talking in the context of organizational change. And, whenever you introduce a new initiative, the resistance, and because mentally we feel that they are not ready to, accept the reality. My screen is still coming, I think, Okay. Is my screen gone, Ali?
No, sir. So no worries, sir. We can still see you, sir.
Okay. Let me see. Okay. Now I'm better.
Yeah, it's gone now. So you're back.
So thank you. So I was saying that we're talking in the organizational context, and whenever we talk of any change initiative, the problem that comes with that employees and people are not ready. And you said that one of the superlative facts that come in is readiness, because they are mentally not prepared. There's a mental block you use. We call it mindset, that it's not going to happen, and it hasn't happened. And unfortunately, with successive failures, this thing is reinforced. That I have dealt with organizations for transformation, and every time you start new initiative, they'll say, oh no, sir, this has been tried earlier, and every time it fails. This time also it will fail. So you need to understand two things here. One is the individual potential to accept the change and develop for the new environment. And second is the organizational readiness for that. For instance, I can request Kamran Saab to go and change the culture of National Bank of Pakistan, for example. And, he's going to have a difficult time because the readiness, he will do a brilliant job of energizing, giving them thought and good ideas, which will make every sense to the person listening. And he will go very convinced that, what Kamran Saab has said is right. And that's the best thing. But then we all have this insight as a human design mechanism or something, that we don't retain it for long. So whenever you go and listen to the sermons, one common example I would like to share. is when you go for funeral of someone, you stand there and you think, and you say, this is life, this is going to end, and this is it. So maybe, I should rethink and ever. But by the time, and everybody is sober, but watch the body language. By the time they're walking out, they're back to the normal world. The jokes have started and everything. So that is the short-term impact of most powerful training that we have. And that's why we have all the challenge of, return on training investment. How is it impacting the behaviors, etc. Now, I was giving this example of National Bank because it's just an example. If there is anybody from National Bank, please don't feel bad about it. It is in the context that organization culture is very important. And my learning is very firm on this. I started as a civil servant, which is a pure bureaucratic culture where you don't take decisions, things don't happen, and you live comfortably ever after. The day you join and the day you resign, such and such date, 60 years, when you attain that age, you will go. Working, an environment is so structured, an environment is so rigid that you really can't do much about it. But luckily for me, and very early after few years in government service, I resigned and I joined Exxon. And I was introduced to a different work culture altogether. And I had never realized that my personality can change. You say that personalities are human traits and behaviors don't change. And this was a phenomenal experience for me, changing from a pure government officer, bureaucrat, into a pure hands-on, roll on sleeves, sit on the computer or whatever the thing you want, and everything is done by yourself. And there is no hierarchy, there is no rigidity. So external influence of culture, Ali, is not recognized in the thing that you're asking. You are addressing the individual. And I say, yes, individual is very important. But what will an individual do when you are sitting in an inert organization? When an organization does not enable you to do anything. And this is common for most public sector. This is common for most government organizations. This is today common even, the delivery mechanism has to be from the system. And the system has so many roadblocks in it. You can't really change that behavior. So to gain the confidence, you gain the confidence if you know your job very well. But if you know the job very well, yet you know that the system will not let you allow it or let you flow this, then that is where the problem comes. So I would recommend an approach where you look into two directions. One, from an organizational perspective first, an organizational culture intervention. And this is something, again, my learning has been, it has been very helpful when we addressed it in Habib Bank. It has been guardedly, partially successful when we did it for Federal Board of Revenue. Federal Board of Revenue is a Sarkari Idara, and it is still a very, very strong bureaucracy. It has changed, it has moved. If I was to take two snapshots, 2002 versus today, a lot of things have been automated, a lot of things are being done in good, but there's a major problem still there. On the other hand, if I look at the Habib Bank example, it used to be a very, very bureaucratic bank. Now it is a very vibrant, customer-oriented. So culture has changed. People have become more open to learning, more open to change in behavior. And that has come, there are multiple, dimensions of that intervention. The authority, the commitment, the sustained intervention and all. So I think, from that point of view, to gain confidence in what you do, you need knowledge and you need to be on top of what you're doing. That gives you the confidence, but that confidence has to be complemented by an enabling environment and organization culture.
Very well said. Very well said. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any questions? I will come around by.
I'd just like to expand the conversation around this personal awareness issue, because it's so easy to fall back and blame your boss for not giving you the training you need. We've seen over the last, in the UK, we're now into our 7th week of lockdown. And on the first week, there were lots of training courses that suddenly became free. And Cameron and I have spoken about this a few times, because the two reasons they became free. Firstly, no one was buying them because the corporates had shut up shop. But more importantly, they recognized that to expand our knowledge, expand our development, they had to be giving something away to keep us more engaged, more entertained, etc., etc. But I asked a question a short while ago to a number of webinar panelists that I've been on, mostly internal. What have you done personally for you in the last 6 weeks that you didn't have the opportunity to do before? And I was quite interested in the response because there was a lot of, let's say, interest at the very beginning. Oh, I want to learn a new language like French or Spanish, because when I go on holiday, I need to be conversant. And there are loads of courses out there that are free, some really good courses that by 7 weeks, you could become quite proliferate and proficient at learning or at speaking French, German, Spanish, whatever your choice is, Italian or whatever. However, all that hiatus and interest at the beginning tailed off. So they'd gone back into their old ways of, oh, that'd be a really good idea, and there's no barrier now because it's free, and I can do it in my own time. But guess what? Their time has expanded into the day where they're not doing a great deal.
Absolutely.
And this is what I find is the problem. We all expect someone else to do it. But for those listening in, get off your backside and do it yourself. Because if you don't look at your future, Zafar, you mentioned eloquently that from an academic point of view, we used to exist on an MBA or a degree, or as me as an accountant, and we used to sit on our laurels for 15 to 20 years. You can't do that anymore.
Absolutely.
5 years, I think, is stretching it, really, in the IT world. 2 years is probably as much as you can go because things change so quickly. So a lot of this is the reliance on, and it's a question for you guys, is it that we got lulled ourselves into an arena where the business would provide to now, actually, we've got to do it ourselves?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you very well made this point. Taking ownership, is that what we call? And, this is something that is not happening. And again, in a way, if you reflect on this level, this has a linkage to the organization culture. And, and I keep on going back to Exxon and American Express, wild type of a culture, where, you were the two very important things, responsibility and empowerment. So most organizations, they give you the responsibility, but you're not empowered. So you have to go and take 10 approvals here and there. So unless these two things are coupled, you will find exactly the behavior level you are saying, okay, well, why am I not doing it? And why I'm not doing? Because I don't see it's translating into the desired result, because there will be so many hurdles and all. So that's another very important part, is that for organizations to grow, there has to be an empowerment, right? And empowerment, again, is the insecure corporate culture. We don't want to give it. I mean, Kamran knows Pakistani culture and big organizations. I don't see many CEOs today who are preparing their number 2. And I don't see many group heads there today who are planning their successors. We are also inherently, weak. We don't want to give in the power and authority because that would develop somebody. And if we develop someone, that I have the fear to become redundant. And my answer to that has been always that then I should look for something else, something bigger, something better. And, God has been kind. I've always found bigger. And, even yesterday, somebody was talking, when I was in FBR, I was telling them, he says, I remember, sir, your one lesson. And when we set up the new HR team, I said, your job is to make me redundant in 3 years. And that's where you start taking things. And it happens. It's like magic, Neville, when you give people the assignment and give people the empowerment. Just back off. And they will make mistakes. And if I'm ready to accept that, I'm not going to throw it back on their face. What did you do? So I need to guide them and all. But that confidence building is the leadership quality that one has to have. But I'm talking not from an individual leader point of view. I'm talking more from an organization culture point of view, which has not been recognized as such, which has not been documented as such, and which has not been responded as such. And that's a key concern even today with this corona thing, and we move forward. We need to, organizations need to review and work on their culture through specific defined strategies and action plans. And individuals, of course, play a role.
Okay, very well. Yes, Kamran bhai, you've been listening.
The pleasure of listening to you.
You need to unlock yourself, Cameron.
I'm delighted with
Unlock yourself.
You're unlocked.
With your expression on potential. What I was wanting to learn from you is an answer to a question that bothers me, which is, whenever you ask anyone, do you have unlimited potential? The answer is yes. Potential is infinite. Yeah. And then I say, then why does your life look so limited? Why is your life so limited? So this is a dichotomy that I have come across quite often, number one. And rather than having a clear answer to that, I tend to get a puzzled look, which means that there is something that has not been considered earlier.
Sound.
Moderating, telling us, but I'd like your thoughts as well. Yeah.
Sorry, I missed the last part of your comment.
Maybe we lost you for a last.
Okay. So I'll come again. When you ask people about their potential, is it finite or infinite? They say it's infinite. And then when you remark that how come your life is so finite for the last few years and even now, they are puzzled as opposed to knowing why they are in the place. So what is this dichotomy? I just needed your take on this, and then Neville's and Ali's.
Absolutely. Very, very pertinent observation. And that is the reason why you saw the few slides I put. It was a very short time and I could not do justice to the slide to explain. Question is, when you ask me this, do you have an unlimited potential? And I'll say yes. Now, what do I understand by potential? Potential for what? And what is your understanding of potential from me? What is your expectation and understanding of potential from me? So the issue is that when we talk of potential, there has to be a clarity. What are we talking about? So when you ask me, if I'm in a middle management level, and you ask me, do you have the potential? Are you a high potential employee? I will say yes. But then potential to what? To become a CEO of the organization? To become the head of the group, or the C-level position, or what? So once that clarity is there, then maybe, if I know your question more clearly, then I will not be saying, yes, I have an unlimited potential. Yeah. So I'll say, okay, yes, I have a potential, but my potential, I think, is that next 3 to 5 years, I should be the departmental manager or a group manager, right? So now we're talking something very clear, and we say, okay, to achieve that, what do you need? And what are the things that you should be working on and what organization should be working on? These are the dual responsibility. Organizations who do not have a structured people development plan or individual development plan will not have this. But I would like to then look into these people, and then I'll ask to see, okay, this is the job they are doing today. And again, Kamran, very interestingly, they will all refer back to their potential to grow with their performance. For the last 4 years, 5 years, I've been getting A rating and I'm not getting promoted. This is a very common question you will get confronted. And the question is, sir, you may be a brilliant officer doing the job what you're doing. The next level requires a different kind of competency and skill. And I give you a very basic example. A salesman can be a brilliant salesman. But when you're looking for a sales supervisor or a sales manager, then you're looking at a different set of skills. Salesman's skill is to have a product, go and convince the customer and sell it. Now, when we look at the sales manager, he doesn't have to sell. He has a totally different set of skills to engage the sales team, blend them, motivate them, give them the target, incentivize them, find out where the problem is, help them out. It's a totally different thing. So just because I have been an outstanding salesman for the last 10 years does not automatically qualify me for becoming the sales manager. Now, this is where the organization has to intervene and understand that, look, he's one of the best salesmen, 2-3 salesmen we pick. And that's why we used to have succession planning, proper succession plan. So we say, okay, now for the next level in the squad, if ever it gets vacated because of the promotion, because of transfer or anything, or because of people leaving, so who's my next best? And then I say, okay, now he's good in these, but you do the potential in my chart, you will see, I said the gap analysis. So this is a good, I have good potential today for selling, but my potential for becoming a sales manager requires me to have leadership skills or whatever. So now I'm going to build myself into it. How? By taking some training and also by on-the-job training, taking some backup assignments in different groups, cross-functional interaction. So you develop people. Not many organizations are actually developing their people. So there is a standard thing. Yes, sir.
Just a follow-up question, and Neville, I would like to hear from you on this as linked to this. You mentioned organizational culture. Now that comes from an alignment of priorities and an understanding, a conceptual alignment, an alignment to the vision where people are flowing in the same direction. Now, at the point of recruitment, people's sense of success. Sorry, do we assess people's sense of success? Because success is very subjective. And organizations have a sense of success, and those who are wanting to join may have another idea of success. Now, if subjectivity was to be taken into account, be helpful in order to ensure that the culture and the alignment and the potential is tapped in the true sense. That's my question.
Okay. No, I think, thank you again for raising it up because it's giving more and more clarity. I'm sure the participant will be getting more clarity. Now, we're talking again, Kamran, of a situation where we thinking that who's going to create and define organization culture, right? And you said one of the things I would like to see in any potential employee that I'm hiring is that he has the desire to succeed. He's self-driven, desire to succeed, and he would like to grow. So that will have an impact on my organization. And you may find that beautiful combination in many people. But then the grand reality is when you put this brilliant man into the organization, which has an inert culture. And again, my learning, Kamran, is not from so many professors. It is from real life. When in an organization, when you look at the banks like MCB and all, when they were being privatized and transformed, they brought in the best management training scheme. I'm talking of MCB Bank, right? So they picked up fresh MBAs from IBA and LUMS, and I'm talking 1992. We in American Express were paying 8,000 rupees as management trainee salary. They were paying 22,000 rupees. Because that is what they will pay to get the good people to MCB then. And you know what happened? The experience, there were good 1 or 2, 3 batches, and they went through brilliant training program and everything. But the reality strikes when the first day you go to a branch and you meet Mr. Branch Manager, who has been starting from the counter, grown into this mega function, his icon of success in life, the branch manager, and he looks at you, who is this? What? And I give you a very interesting example of real life. Again, I tell you, Alhamdulillah, life has taught me so much. So we in Habib Bank had this good management trainee scheme, and we hired a lot of people, and good 1,400 people all over Pakistan. So one day, driving in Rawalpindi, I went to one of the branches. This is about when the trainees were, gone through the program, they have been placed into the branches. And this is the real life example, and I keep sharing. When I walked into the branch, so manager took me around to meet with everybody. Hello, how are you? Assalamu alaikum, etc., etc. And there was this young girl sitting there in a corner on a table. So I thought that maybe she's from the French. I said, so she also got, I said, okay, so what are you? She said, sir, I'm from this batch. Okay, when did you join the branch? Sir, I've been here for about 8 months. I said, very good. So what are you doing? He said, sir, I'm working on account opening forms. I said, well, how long? He said, 8 months. And the manager standing here, he came forward with a lot of pride. Sir, now she is going to work 3 more months here, and then I will give her another responsibility. Now, in his good old days, this is the career path that he has seen, which can bring you to the best in life, which is the branch manager. And here you have I'm talking real life. I mean, it's no fiction. And here is an MBA who's come up with all the financial analysis, modules, risk management, etc., etc. And she's been taught so much in our academy. And there she is, how to open, individual account, partnership account, corporate accounts. Now, this is where I don't know whether you can relate it to your hiring strategy in getting the best. But then it has to change the ground reality, meet with the ground reality. There is some, I'm not saying a complete transformation, and that is where I'm talking about the organization culture, an organization culture where people have enabling environment for the high talent, high quality talent, and empowerment. And, this is where I'm talking about engagement and empowerment and all. And those are the things that they're going to make a lot of difference.
Thank you. Neville, what's your take on this? What's your British experience?
Well, it's probably a bit more than British experience, having travelled around the world. But Zafar, 100%. That's exactly what most organisations do. You sit in a chair.
I just take a minute. Just 1 second.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just 1 second. Kamran, just to let you know, we are living British culture. Sir, carry on.
Kale Angrezon ka culture.
Well, clearly we passed on all the bad traits. But my point is, the classic is, you get qualified, you go on these fantastic introduction programs where they raise your expectation level to be, you're the next chairman of the bank in 5 years' time. And then reality kicks in. They dump you into a remote branch, which is a branch of a branch. You never see anyone in the senior management team ever again, apart from the local manager, who, to be fair, hasn't had all these wonderful expectations. And their experience is sit there for a year, do the job, and I might consider promoting you. Now, sadly, the reality of life is that isn't the way things should happen. However, it happens in the majority of cases. Now let's go on to the flip side. I did a couple of years ago say to an organisation, why don't you write into your job descriptions, when you recruit somebody or you put someone in a new position, why don't you write into that job description, number 1, find your successor. Number 2, ensure that successor can take over from you in a minimum of 2 years, but realistically 3 years. So going back to what you said, make yourself redundant. My view of that would be, yes, this is the company I want to work for, because as long as I do what I'm being asked to do and I push my potential, the sky is the limit. Now, the sky may be working for someone else in a different company, but that is not your problem. That's their problem. There's the classic chief exec and CFO joke that they used to talk to each other. And the CFO said, what if we train all these people and they leave? And the CEO said, what if we don't and they stay? And it is comical, And the thing is, we've really got to get into this now. This is the 21st century. Encourage, engage. You mentioned mentoring and coaching, Zafar. Forget this leadership development program. Just ditch it. Get people to mentor and coach in a very productive manner. In essence, it's leadership with a different title. And you two guys are experts at doing it. So we're not teaching leadership. This is what you should do for leadership. Let me mentor and coach you and see what you do every day and show how you can improve what you do and really bring these people on. Let's change this. Let's change this situation to a completely different level, because now's the time to do it. Because as we've seen over here, there's going to be a lot of jobs that just disappear. Not because they weren't necessarily needed in the organisation, but they're not of value to the organisation anymore. So we're seeing a different skill shift. And we've heard it for years, you know, attitude, soft skills, called it leadership, called it transactional, called it job description, job name, whatever it is. We need to be more of a communicator.
Absolutely.
And the more of a communicator we are, and I always talk about the 5 inches between our ears, we need to shrink that 5 inches so that we're better at communicating to ourselves. So, and what that will do is, you mentioned potential, and this is such a rich arena, but potential is contextual. So what if I was introduced to appraisals in 1980?
I'm just curious about the clock also. So can you take some questions from the audience also?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thanks. So we have one from Mr. Zishan, Mohammed Zishan. I believe, Zafar Sahib, you've already answered, but if you want to take it again, the question is, can potential be improved at a later stage? If yes, then how?
Well, good. Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
I'll ask the gentleman to think about and define later stage. There is no later stage in life.
Wow. It's now. Do it now.
Never. Well, actually, I was about to mention the appraisal process, and we've got some great HR processes in place. The appraisal process really is define your potential now. In the context where you are, define it. So where do you want to be in a year's time, 2 years' time, 3 years' time? And then ask your employer to help you get there. But by the way, this is a two-way street. So you've got to put the effort in as well. The other thing is, get your employer to tell you what potential you might have. I mean, my background's finance, so I started life in the finance department, but I ended up running divisions. So I was the classic, CEO, CFO. So you define your own potential. And if you narrowly define it, guess what? You're going to be perfect. You're going to be right. So push yourself is the answer to that. It can happen anytime.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I think, that is where we're talking about the organizations who have a proper performance management system and have potential definition and everything. Those are the organizations which relatively do better. Then we have classical organizations which do not have a structured process of human development or employee development. Those put those 3-4 years thing. But you see, what I'm wondering, Neville, now is with this disruption and things like that, 3 years from now, the jobs will change substantially. And the way they are changing, is a number of jobs. If you go and check on the Google and all, they're going to become redundant. And we need to now also proactively, and this is very important for all the participants, I would like their attention, to look into what are the new jobs that are coming in 2025 to 2030. And now if you are not retiring between now and 2030, which I'm sure none of you would be, even if you are in 50s, at least you are going to work classical retirement age 2030. So between now and 2030, a number of jobs will become redundant and a number of new competencies will be required. So what is going to be the job security or insecurity we talk about? And there is another webinar on that I'll be talking maybe in a day or so. And I'm thinking about that. Job security is basically my ability to create value in the organization. That is the biggest job security. And if I lose that ability because the organization has changed, systems and processes have changed, and I have not aligned myself to be able to deliver on that, then I will lose the job. I'll be redundant. So this is something that human, if you look at the human history, it has always been resisted. Yes, Kamran.
You need to unlock. Well done.
A question that I was keeping for the long term, because when we speak of potential, it's immediate, it's medium, and
I've lost Kamran's voice.
I expect we'll catch him again. While he's there, you know, we talk about.
Him, yeah?
You mentioned we talk about long-term potential,
yes.
short-term
So what I was
potential.
saying
We lost
was,
you, Cameron. You need to repeat.
Sorry. So what I'm trying to say here is post-COVID business as usual, or are we entering a paradigm that will be radically different from what we have been used to in the past? And for that, our potential for a new world, a new reality. Are we really clear on that new reality before we can even explore what it might be? Because the traditional world is what we are accustomed to. Do you see any change? Will it be business as usual or different? That's my question.
Thank you, Kamran, for asking that question. And I'm just trying to reinforce the reality that we will not be in the same world. The world has changed in many, many, many ways that we can comprehend now, and in many more ways that we will experience as we go along, right? So we're talking already of new norms. New norms will completely change the work culture, the interaction and everything. So I would say that 4 weeks back when we went to the office versus after, whenever the lockdown is gone, we're not going back into the same world. If people used to call me to Islamabad for a meeting or Bahawalpur for a meeting, now they don't have to. They have learned the art of sitting here and talking and holding meetings. Similarly, the business meetings that we used to go, okay, meeting with the CHRs or meeting with the leadership team, not necessarily. So we have to now rely more on the technology and our ability to communicate better with the technology. And it's an amazing transition that's going to take place. Problem is our ability to quickly adopt to that. And just to give you my observation from history, it has always been resisted. You know, it started from the time of Industrial Revolution. When the machines came, people said, no, you know, man does better, so it's going to make you jobless. Even my early career in 80s and all, we used to say, okay, the computer is going to create a lot of joblessness. Oh my God, this has come, and so what is going to happen to all those clerks who used to? Then it came to the bank. We said, oh my God, what's going to happen to all those people who make an entry of the check in a card, and somebody verifies and somebody does the checking and all. Now everything is on the screen. So people do change. It's not that they don't, because it's a question of survival. And if it's a question of survival, that's the only driver. When you know that you will not survive unless you adapt, you will do it. The problem is that there is a lot of opportunity cost attached to it. So if I don't start proactively, I'll go through a pain, an organization will go through a pain, and there will be a lot of cost to it. And I'm saying that we have to be now, as HR professionals and consultants or advisors, we have to create that awareness that, look, man, this is the time to think differently. And we will be faced with the same classical mindset, the example of the branch managers that I gave you. I mean, they have changed a lot, but there are still that mindset people. Ali raised the first question, the mindset. How do you deal with that? And mindset is most resistant and most reluctant. And it is because of an inherent fear that we have. We are insecure. We don't teach people what we know. We don't let people grow. We suppress them. You must have seen, and I have seen, I've been professional life, there are people who will get their juniors to make the presentation and everything, and come and sit and give the presentation. And when they're giving the presentation, it will only take you 30 seconds to know who has made it. Because you ask them, can we go back to slide number 13 and look at it? And
I know. Sir, very interesting. Sir, we have some interesting questions coming up from the audience. So with your permission, should I read them for you?
Yeah.
With the request for brief answers as we also press on the time. So let me go to the first question from Mr. Shahzad Akhtar Saab. Question to Osmani Saab. Having said that, the culture of the organization plays a vital role in many of the change initiatives. Still, the people who can impact and can bring change in the organization are the main stumbling blocks. How do you see overcoming this in a pure Pakistani SAIT culture? Now knows the word SAIT now, so mostly the family-owned businesses.
Shahzad, thank you for attending this program, and thank you for enlightening us with this beautiful question. And this is something that I'm struggling with these days, because a lot of these family-owned businesses are very rich and they don't want to, think of change. Their problem is, and they have got 2-3 generations now. Their problem is that they have achieved success in a certain way that they have been doing. And there are some of these Sialkot exporters, big group, who sometimes consult with me. And I have had a lot of difficulty in telling them. They said, "Mujhe ye bataye, tell me this thing. I have worked like this for 7, 8, 10 years or 20 years. Now I've got 4,000 employees. My exports are over 4 billion. And you're saying that this is something wrong with that system?" And, for them to travel from the mindset where they need to do things differently, which is what? Which is basically empowerment, which is what? Engaging professional managers. They have got, even some of the very, very big families, they've got a way of working where they've got a spies inside the organization in every department. They've got multi-channel. If you go into their system of intelligence, you'll be surprised. Sitting here, they know everything happening in every department and everything. So that's their classical way of doing things. Now, what we've learned is, in the future, it's going to be a strong teamwork, collaboration, and you need to leverage the power. So to answer Shahzad Saab, if his question was that, how do you deal with that? Well, you deal with that, and to a certain extent, I have been successful in some organizations where you deal with the younger generation who understand you, but then it's their problem to convince their seniors, because their seniors don't understand it. So there is being a difference. There are some progress being made, and those organizations need a lot of understanding, coaching, and counseling. So Shahzad, what we need to do is, if there is, well, first of all, it will only succeed if there is a desire, if they want to do things, right? And if they have a desire, then they have to have a commitment, and then your intervention and my intervention to guide them through the process. Understand their issues, understand their concerns, and then follow it.
Yeah.
I have a take on that, if that's okay.
If you may just be precise, short, if you could.
I will be short, and it's going to come in the form of a question. Which organisation where these people sit do not want to improve? Because I don't know of any organisation that says, I don't want to improve, I'm happy where I am. Now, you can define improvement in any way you like, but the majority of companies, in fact, all of them will say, yes, we want to improve. Then if you ask the next question is, are you prepared to do something slightly different to improve? And then you tend to get a few quizzical looks. And then I'll go back with, well, actually, if you do the same as you did yesterday, you're not going to get any improvement, are you? So you're going to have to change something. If I empowered you to change something you were in complete control of, would you do it? And again, the answer is quite simple. And you might gather that I do this for a living. The answer is yes, of course. If I can choose to do something slightly different than now, guaranteed that I'm going to improve, I will do it. Who wouldn't? And then the question is, okay, what do you do? And then you get the problem, because all of a sudden they don't really know what they do. And then there's the answer. So the answer is, how do you get rid of these stumbling blocks? Ask people what they do. And one thing that COVID has taught us all, as you quite rightly said a minute ago, Zafar, it's not going to go back to what it was.
Absolutely.
Things are going to change. What they change to, frankly, I haven't got a crystal ball that could tell you. Because if I had a crystal ball, I'd share it with everyone and say, look, this is how it's going to go. Get ahead of the game, go and do it, Other people would say, I'm not sharing my crystal ball because I'm going to make money out of it.
But I like
get out and do it.
I like your point to the extent that if you ask them, give them incremental, marginal improvement recipes and therapies, which is not too revolutionary. And I think that's where we consultants fail. We go and we say, okay, here your organization structure, and here it is, and here it is.
Oh, we do this, Zafar. We say, here's your prescription. Go ahead and fulfill it. Off you go.
Exactly.
Just like we go to a doctor, and that's not the right way to do it.
Give them some very small doses of interventions, which they think, yes, we are progressing. Their psychological need. Okay, we are progressing under a professional, and so then they start seeing the benefits to build on that. The only problem is that we don't have that much time now. And even these companies of the family-owned businesses they realize that what has brought us here will not take us to 2025. And then that's where they start thinking. So positive thing to answer Hassan, the question was that, I think the question was from Hassan, right?
It was from Shahzad Saab, no?
Shahzad Saab. To tell Shahzad Saab, one is the marginal thing that we can do, and secondly, we need to understand the limitation of the reality. But it is doable, it has to be done. As I said, when they can learn it when they started losing business and losing market, or they can learn it now and secure their market.
I'd just like to add one thing there, though. Okay. Just one thing,
really
Ali.
Press on time, yeah, sure.
I understand.
Yeah.
But the point is, everyone believes change takes time. And the answer is, it will take as long as it needs to take. But you can change something at the marginal level very quickly, as long as you practice it and implement it. So it doesn't take 21 days to change a habit, as some people might say. That's a falsehood. You can apply a small change and assess it, be aware of the impact of that small change very, very quickly. And it ripples through the organization very fast if you all make that change.
Yeah. So thank you very much. And let me just take one last question. I know we are pressed on time because of the month Ramadan. We have different timing zones to break the fast. But this one is interesting from Sajjad Pamar Saab. Let me see. I think it scrolled up. There you go. Yeah. So an underlying challenge for the past 30 years and going forward is to companies' performance management systems. And in 75% cases, companies' performance systems are not adding value. Using these to come up with the definition of potential for short, medium, and long-term needs to be corrected. What about our biases in judging potentials? And this one is also, especially in a larger context, considering Pakistan, wherever I go and wherever we all go, we say, oh, there's a huge potential, there's huge talent in this country, and, like where anybody else. But is it really adding value?
The thing is that if you're saying that our understanding of the talent is that they are good and we communicate, but it's really not impacting. Is that your question?
Yeah, it's more about the performance management systems are well in place, but since 75% time they're not working, they're not adding value. So the question at the bottom is, what about our own biases in judging the potential, the evaluation perhaps?
I can spend 2 days on this.
Yep, snap.
But you have 2 minutes,
I tell you, this is my favorite. I have seen the failed performance management system causing more damage to the organization than benefit. I have seen the bell curve concept demotivating 70% of the population every year. And then we go and we demand excellence from them. So so that, my answer to you is, Ali, we are operating under the name of performance management through a redundant system. Most of the systems are redundant. They should be thrown out and we need to have new solutions. Personal bias. Personal bias is a very important point, and personal bias can be minimized. It is there. First of all, it's a reality. We should accept it. We should accept that we are humans, right? And as humans, we like some people more than others. Like, we can reduce that personal bias by having a very objective goal setting process and measurement of the delivery. And that, then sort of personal bias is reduced. So if there are 10 salesmen and you give them a certain defined sales target to achieve, and your favorite may not have achieved that target, so you cannot actually come across as a good performer. So personal bias is there. One is the human side of it. Obviously, we teach that there should be good relationship management skills in people. Why is there a bias? Why is there a bias? Because somebody likes somebody more. So I'm going to work hard. I mean, it's not a gentleman and a lady relationship. It's an employer-employee relationship. So if somebody likes somebody more, it must be for reasons. Then I'll start performing better. I'll start bringing better results. And hopefully that will then reduce that bias, at least to some extent.
I mean, the interesting thing on bias, and just touching this very briefly, there's objectives and targets we've known for years need to be SMART. S-M-A-R-T. And that can take away the unconscious bias, which is really where we suffer.
Absolutely.
I don't like this person because they wear glasses or something ridiculous.
Many organizations have SMART goals setting process.
Oh, very few, Zafar, because it's a 1980s design. But unfortunately, like anything else, some things that live the test of time should still be performed. And having SMART targets and SMART objectives sat with me. I remember seeing them during my A-levels, which was back in the 1970s. So set yourself a target. Is it SMART? Do I know when I've got to do it, how I've got to do it, what design I need to do it, how I'm going to send it out, And if you objectively go through this process, it works every time. And you immediately get rid of personal bias.
Love to have a one-on-one discussion on this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but unfortunately, gentlemen, we are really pressed on time, and I rather request Kamran Bhai if you would like to conclude with any concluding remarks before we all dismiss out. And with a special note of thanks to Zafar Saab also, and I will.
Thank you. So my concluding remarks are, Zafar, thank you very much for making the time to be with us and enlightening us with your experience that is as old as wine and as young as an athlete.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the first thing. And the second thought is that we today are in a pandemic, and it's a great opportunity for us to reassess, reevaluate how we have worked, because what has worked up to now is not going to work in the future. Change is a fashionable term, but I feel it has now become an essential ingredient. If we don't embrace it, we're going to die. Thank you very much for your time, Ali, for organizing this.
Thank you very much, Kamran.
And the participants.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Zafar Saab, and thank you very much, Neville, for joining in. As this program is being run every week, same time, Monday, 5:15, with a new guest. But while leaving, let me give you one quick URL for self-reflection and to unlock your potential. This is a beta testing that we're doing. I'm just trying to type it in. It's called Are You Can Do. RU as RU cando.yp2grow.com. I just broadcasted on the link. So please do visit this link. It allows you to assess your own potential to become more of a can-do person in your personal, family, social, work life. and it's a great tool to measure yourself, which Neville was mentioning, sort of a smart thing to do. And once again, thank you very much, Zafar. Thank you, Neville. Thank you, Kamran Bhai. With that note, I would like to end and conclude. So you all have a good day, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you have dialed in from. So we'll meet
Thank you,
next
thank you
week.
again for organizing this. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming in. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.